Good evening, everyone. Today is Monday, November 27th. This is our full council meeting. Would you stand as you're able so we can get the meeting started with a pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Britnoff, would you do a roll call, please?
With pleasure. Ms. Cheney?
Here.
Mr. Fisher?
Yeah.
Mr. Marks? Here. Mr. Michelson? Here. Ms. Snyder?
Here.
Mr. Van Horn?
Here. Presuming everyone an opportunity to look at the agenda, is there a motion to accept the agenda or to amend the agenda as needed?
Motion to accept.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We don't have anyone registered to speak this evening. I know that resident Miss Hamilton Brewer had actually, there was some confusion around registration when you need to be registered by. She's not feeling well this evening, but I know that in our coming meetings, there'll be a registered speaker if she is still wanting to do that. But I mentioned that I spoke with administration. The cause of the confusion will be addressed as soon as possible. There's basically two different places on the website that says when you have to be registered by. And so there was some confusion around that. We'll get that fixed. Let's see, we have minutes to be approved from our meeting on November 13th. Has everyone had an opportunity to look at those? And is there a motion to accept or to amend any errors in that anyone saw?
Motion to accept.
Second.
All right.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, I have a couple things for the mayor's report real briefly. So I put a word out to the chairs of committees that I would like to be meeting with them between now and the first meeting of the new council to look through the strategic plan and basically divide it up into which action items fall under like executive, which ones fall under finance, so that those committees themselves can begin looking at, or in the new year, can be looking at what they feel are the priorities within the strategic plan, the things that they are that are within their domain. I'm wanting to meet with the chairs beforehand so that we can be kind of looking at that even before before I officially assign folks to the committees. It just makes sense to be doing it that way. So I wanted to give folks a heads up about that, to a reminder to the chairs to please be sending me some dates that work for you to meet together with me to begin looking at those. Along the same lines, we'll be making the committee appointments at our first or second meeting in the new year for the executive committee, the finance committee, and the community engagement committee. We also have reappointments and appointments for both the Human Rights Commission as well as the Recreation Commission. The Recreation Commission has two members on it right now that, because they were elected to council, will need to step down from those positions when they are sworn in as council members. So we'll have two seats that need to be filled. If you have folks that you feel or that you know are interested, please bring those folks to my attention. If you don't know of anybody, please go out, send your feelers out, find out who's interested in being on the Recreation Commission. With regard to the Human Rights Commission, I'm aware that there's been a seat that's open on that, And I've had an individual approach me who can't currently because they are a sitting member of council, but they will not be a sitting member of council for very long, but they are interested in being on the Recreation Commission, and that's, on the Human Rights Commission. All right, so there's an open seat on that, and I was just notified this evening that there's likely going to be another opening on that. So there's a number of people whose terms have expired that I'm interested in reappointing. If they should be interested, and I haven't heard that they're not interested in that. There is a sitting member whose term hasn't expired that has expressed to me that they would like to step down. I've not received their letter of resignation yet, so I won't be announcing who that is. But then there was also another open seat there that Mr. Michelson has expressed interest in. So just so that you guys are aware, if you have interest in making nominations for the Human Rights Commission, please direct those to me, and we'll be doing that as soon as possible. I just spoke with our legal counsel about when the Human Rights Commission can meet, and I had been previously saying I was hoping that they could meet the first Monday in December at 7 p.m. Under the bylaws, they meet on the first Mondays at 7 p.m. They can change when they first meet. They can change their schedule. They can change their bylaws about when they meet. But until then, it's going to have to be a first Monday of the month at 7 p.m. And in looking closely at those bylaws and at the charter, forget in which one it states this, but the swearing in occurs in January. So that would mean that they can't meet in December. They have to meet in January to do the swearing in, since it's all new people on the Recreation Commission. So those are my two announcements about that. Let me know with regard to committee meetings. That's executive, finance, and community engagement. If you're interested in being on a committee, I've already spoke to people about continuing to be about who I'm thinking of as being chairs for those committees. I've already spoken with those individuals. But in terms of which council members are otherwise on those committees and which residents are already on those committees, please bring your preferences to me, and any ideas you have for residents, right, so that I can make those appointments at the beginning of January. There's a change in the agenda for the Community Engagement Committee meeting tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Initially, we had spoke about having the recreation commissioners who'd been nominated come to the community engagement meeting to receive a presentation that I've been asked to do about what their duties would be on the Recreation Commission, what all the ordinances, and given an overview summary of the duties of the commissioners and their officers, what minute format looks like. I was going to also have our fiscal officer speak to what requisition forms look like and everything for that whole process, what the how the appropriations work for that, getting all those details laid out there. My understanding is that so initially we were thinking that might even take up the whole meeting or half the meeting. That's going to be more abbreviated to like 15 minutes, and that's just for if any of the commissioners show up. There wasn't, the word did not get out to all the commissioners that we were going to be doing this tomorrow, and there was also some misinformation on the website about when the meeting is at. On the banner, it was saying that it was last week, and then on our packets page, it was correctly identifying that it's tomorrow. So in preparation that some folks may show up tomorrow, I'll be there to give an abbreviated version of that. The plan right now is to send out a PDF of that summary to each of the commissioners so they can begin mulling over basically this idea of officer nominations that they'll need to be doing in their first meeting when they're sworn in. all right? So I'll give a presentation at their first meeting about, well, I was planning on giving a presentation on tomorrow, but want to give them a heads up so that they're not just learning what a chairperson does the same evening that they're nominating and voting for a chairperson. I want to get that information out to the room. So that's a heads up. I'll still be here tomorrow morning in case we have people show up. As promised, I can give that presentation. All right. My understanding is that Ms. Cheney won't be able to be at
Right.
that meeting tomorrow. All right. And that's all contingent on us having quorum as well tomorrow. Any questions from anybody?
When it comes to committees, how many resident seats is a lot, is there generally, or is there a limit?
Yeah, it's my call, and what I prefer is for there to be two.
Great.
Anything else?
Are we going to assure there's more diversity on our committee in the coming year?
Yes.
That's,
I mean, assure, I don't mean we'll look into it, because we don't have much diversity in our council or the committees.
yeah, as you know, that was part of the whole formation of community engagement, was to increase that. And it's why whenever I'm talking about committees, I ask each council member to please reach out and find folks. But we got to do better than just that. Otherwise, we're just getting folks that are our friends on Facebook, which isn't really creating as much diversity as what we're looking for. So,
Yep.
yes. Any other questions? All right,
Is that your report?
Mr. Hirth, that's my report.
I have a question for you. When I got back from being gone for a number of weeks, I went to your website and saw you have the strategic plan on your website, and you call it your plan. Is there a reason why the people in this room and all the people that contributed to that aren't mentioned?
Okay, I believe if you look at that, it refers to what we put together, and it says under my leadership, we put that together. But yes, I do refer to it as.
It says Mayor Densmore's strategic plan is available for review below, representing his values and priorities for the village. Take a look to see how bright the future shines for the village of Gulf Manor under the leadership of Mayor Densmore. That's exactly off your website. There's no mention of anybody in this room who put hours and hours in on that. I would request you change that or pull it off your website,
Duly noted, sir.
and that should happen soon.
I would prefer that you would have brought it up before now.
Well,
That's
I was gone when you put it up.
You were gone when I put it up?
I was in Europe.
Okay.
I came back and saw it. I was going to bring it up last meeting, but I was worried about the Jim Whitus thing. And so I got that taken care of. I realized I forgot to say it, but that's a major miss, not mentioning the work all these people did. And it's not me.
Right.
That's enough. I don't
Finish?
need any explanation.
For the record, everyone on this council, I believe, did contribute to the strategic plan. You can look, I believe, not maybe on that page, but in other places on there, I talk about putting together the strategic plan and what an arduous process that was to get everyone's input. And that, yes, everyone did contribute to it. And I believe that just about every meeting of council, it's probably an over-exaggeration, I did ask for people's input on it. And there was a number of folks that did not put any input into it until the last
understand.
minute. So,
But your heading says it's your
yes.
plan.
are you
which is
finished?
not
You're
true.
interrupting.
I don't care.
You don't care?
No.
Nice. All right, any other questions? Mr. Hurd.
Thank you. We're in the thick of leaf season. Continuing reminder to everybody that Rumpke is still picking up leaves that are bagged on Mondays through December 16th. And then if people wish, they can still rake leaves to the curb following the schedule. The schedule is the concentrated streets that are being done week by week. Last week was a bye week. Unfortunately, the weather wasn't that great in a couple of days. and they're working to get caught up, but that process continues. On Hamel Avenue, the bid process that was opened earlier in the month concludes on Thursday of this week at 10 a.m., where we'll accept the bids on that particular project. So I would imagine sometime in January, we'll be coming back to council with recommendations on contractors. Elbrook Hallelujah is complete. The striping is done. The only other change that we want to make on Elbrook is we're going to put those signs on actual poles rather than being attached to utility poles at this time. Engineering and design of the Weehee and Elbrook Avenue intersections continues. We should have a plan sometime in January to start considering and taking a look at. We are currently recruiting to fill the financial operations manager position. Reminder that Paul is leaving us on December 29th. Mr. Putoff is currently working with the engineer to develop a phased approach to the drainage improvements that we need to make around the municipal building. The police department retention stipends were successfully paid at the last payroll. And Mr. Putoff, I believe, will talk a little bit about that process along with Chief Campbell and how we got those stipends. And then finally, end of year fiscal closure and reporting starts in December. It's that time of year. It takes a couple of months to get everything wound up. I would remind anybody that would have any expenses for anything, particularly folks that have worked on events, if you have something, get those to us if they need to be reimbursed as quickly as possible so we get those into fiscal 23. And that's the end of my report.
Any questions for Mr. Hood?
Yeah, is the position posted anywhere that's, we could, in case that we know anyone that might be interested in it?
Yeah, it's on our website. It is on the Indeed app. And I believe Mr. Pridnoff posted that. It's on Center for Local Government. It's in a number of places.
Do we know like what section on the website? I'm just curious.
It's under contacts job openings.
So the just easiest way to find it, go to Indeed, type in fiscal operations Cincinnati, we're the third ad. So that should get us, a higher number of applications.
But it is on the website as well.
It's also on the website, but it's the same job description. So just if you're looking for the easiest, I hope you stay at least on the first page with Indeed, but in general fund income tax receipts, the RETA collections were slightly lower than October of the previous year. However, for the year, the village has collected $860,739.76 in general fund income tax receipts, which is just over 7% higher than October fiscal year 22. So very good so far. The village received state of Ohio homestead rollback in October in the amount of $75,423, which completes property tax revenues for 23. Noteworthy that is normally received in September. The village received $205,247.55 in general fund receipts. This number is $42,282.88, less than October of fiscal year 22. The decrease can be attributed to the receipt of Little Miami Fire and Rescue tax levy payment checks, offset by the homestead rollback. The DEA program received no dollars, which leaves the annual total to $114,238.09. That being said, the village continues to project receipts of approximately $136,000 for the year for that program. The Star Ohio Fund earned $7,317.73 for the month of October, totaling $54,910.80 for 2023 and $58,518.17 since the initial Gulf Manor investment in that fund in 2022. Again, $937,427.35 of reserve cash from all funds is placed in a Fifth Third savings account and earned $4,032.79, totaling $7,514.38 for 2023. At current interest, this account projects an additional $48,000 in annual interest earnings. The top 5 payees for the month were payroll, DPS, Rumpke, OPNF, and Jefferson Health Plan. The total village general fund appropriations spend for the month was in the amount of $186,956.32. This figure is $164,213.65 less than October of fiscal year 22, which is almost entirely subsumed by the purchase price of the Aquinas Bakery property and environmental evaluations. So we're right about where we were this time, October fiscal year 22. The village had nine outstanding payments that total $2,760.92. The village administration will continue to monitor appropriation spend and make any adjustments deemed necessary.
Thank you. Does that conclude your report?
Concludes my report.
Are there any questions concerning the fiscal officer's report?
We saw that. Fine.
Yeah.
So we're good.
We just need a motion to accept.
Motion to accept.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Goodenough. Chief Campbell.
Sorry, so that was the end of that. I apologize. There's another piece.
Take it back.
Oops. 2024 appropriations in front of you this evening will be in the solicitor's report. After further investigation into village financial resources, the administration was able to confirm that the Emergency Management Agency ARPA money is considered a reimbursement to the general fund. With that in mind, no reduction in appropriations was deemed necessary. The administration is comfortable with current appropriations as presented to council.
Could you say that one more time in a way that I get it?
Slower.
No problem. So essentially, the last time, I think it was in finance at the end of October, the finance chair had requested that the administration devise 3 possible ways to either reduce appropriations or increase revenues. Reduction of appropriations at this point is not really so possible. I mean, I had already spent a significant amount of time with the police department, with other departments within the village, reducing appropriations the best that we could. I mean, unfortunately, the thing that costs more than stuff is people, and people are these days more expensive than ever. So that being said, I was concerned, obviously, that the amount of appropriation was a lot higher than what seemed to be coming in. However, because the EMA ARPA money that was, this is kind of segueing into the chief, but basically, what was it, back in March was when we were awarded that grant. So back in March, we were awarded $440,000 over 2 years, which was unclear to me how we are allowed to use, in what way are we allowed to use that money?
Gotcha.
Was that a reimbursement, or was that something that needed to be coded into ARPA money and was restricted just like any other ARPA money? Couldn't be used for staffing, or if it was used for staffing, it would be only in select cases. In this case, because it can be used for staffing, the perceived deficit for the next 2 years is certainly stopped up and bolstered by about $220,000 of expected grant receipts for the next 2 years. That being the case, I think what was discussed in finance, and probably you'll hear more from Mr. Fisher, is that this is a 2-year lull where we can focus on economic development, where the village can focus on other avenues to increase receipts across the board, which would make up for that deficit. So it gives us that opportunity to pursue options to increase revenue without reducing service.
Awesome. Thank you. I understand that better now.
I'd just like to say that this past several years, what administration has done with the finances in this village is outstanding, given what we saw that was occurring 6, 7, 8 years ago, when we were probably going in the tank. What the administration has done is outstanding.
We were in the tank.
We were in the tank, and we were worse than that.
Mhm.
Yeah. This is a great village.
Mhm.
Any other questions for Mr. Goodenough? Is that the end of your report?
And now that's the end of my full report, not just, sorry. That's actually, that's just, that'll be in the solicitor's report.
Okay.
That's coming up.
A clarification that I just got messaged a question about our conversation concerning the Human Rights Commission. believe it was the Human Rights Commission. Recreation Commission, sorry. Rules around whether commissioners can be related to council members or not. I didn't see anything that prevented
There's no issue
that.
there.
Yeah, I
I
didn't
mean,
see
and that's the only, there may be issues when, there may be an issue when issues come up, if there's some
Okay,
sort of conflict of interest.
Right, okay.
But as far as it just being related to a council member, no, there's no
Right.
issue there.
And what about to one another? Like say a married couple, like there wouldn't be any.
No, same thing.
Okay.
Well, we did pass something regarding the NDO.
That was in
That
the
doesn't
Human
allow-
Rights Commission.
Yeah.
All right, so
So
not allowed on Human Rights Commission, but allowed on Recreation Commission.
my understanding is that sort of then falls over to the other commissions. Is that-
I don't know, I don't know what you passed. I don't know if it was specified.
It was specific to the NDO.
But I heard that it was because of that passage, it doesn't distinguish necessarily between committees. It
Right.
sets a precedent for all.
Would anyone object if I ask our solicitor to look
I would
back at
suggest
that
that.
ordinance for?
Where did you hear that was?
Mr. Donald,
If you pass an ordinance that says that individuals on the Human Rights Commission cannot be related to council members, is that what you're saying? If it's that specific, I don't know how there's any bleed over to other committees, but I'll take a look.
But you'll take a look at it.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Recreation all the way back to the 1980s. When I started on it, always had relatives and people related,
Again, I don't see
husbands,
any-
wives.
Certainly, I don't see an
sisters,
issue
family.
unless there's a
Business.
Yeah.
resolution.
Yeah.
or
There's
ordinance.
conflict of interest.
Yeah.
The specific question is that we passed legislation concerning the HRC commission, and the question is, does that bleed over to our other commissions that we create?
And I will look at that.
Yes or no?
Doesn't hurt to be clear on our own
Right.
ordinances.
I agree.
All right, any other questions? If not, Chief Campbell.
I have hard copies I'll share with Ron and Eric for the minutes, but some activity reports. So the police department responded in the month of October to 290 calls for service. The most frequent types of calls were theft, traffic stops, traffic complaints, and domestic issues. It's a 5-page document based on the categories of types of runs that officers enter when they respond. So I'll share that so people can look over that. Also for the month of October, there were 26 incident reports created based on those calls for service. Just to remind council, the incident reports are taken when there's another step. It could be, a crime occurred, where there's going to be follow-ups, things like that. And as I said in the previous meeting, there were some serious incidents that occurred. And for the year, the department's taken 258 criminal incident reports. The most common of those so far are domestic violence, criminal damaging, theft. A lot of that's attributed commercially to stores. And also missing and runaway juveniles and adults. I'll share that so people can look over it. Finally, I have a report from Lieutenant Forrest on the K-9 deployments for the month. He was away at some training, but there's been 4 deployments in the month of October. And they resulted in 2 arrests. No bites, which is good. So that's all I have. Unless there's any questions.
Any questions for Chief Campbell?
What was that?
was that in both Manor?
Both.
Both from both Manor?
No, some were within and assisting other agencies.
Or one was? How many were deployed in both Manor?
report. I'm sorry, no, they were all here.
Chief, you have a mayor's court report?
That's beginning.
Zeb.
That was the last meeting.
Okay,
Did that last week.
gotcha. Thank you.
That's all I have. Is there any questions?
Any questions for Chief Campbell? Any additional questions? Good. All right, Mr. Butler.
Thank
Citizens
you.
report.
There's two pieces of legislation in front of you. The first regards amendment to our income tax code. We are subject to the state of Ohio's rules if we want to have a local income tax. So periodically, they amend this and they provide us with the changes that they want. Highlights, I know you've all had it in case you haven't had a chance to read it. It exempts from income to anyone under the age of 18 years old. That's now statewide. It used to be community by community. Now you can't, a municipality cannot tax someone who's under the age of 18. Also, returns must be filed by all taxpayers, whether tax is owed or not. There is a long section regarding qualifying remote employees by the owner of businesses. It is very long. I've read it. Essentially, I think it's a reaction to the fact that we now have so many home-based employees, remote employees. It allows businesses to designate where their employees are working, even if it's kind of a hybrid situation. Frankly, it really applies more to businesses than anything. And of course, the city of Cincinnati is subject to the same code that we are. It probably is more significant, is more relevant to large communities than us, but it does give businesses that opportunity. If someone is granted an extension by the tax commissioner of the state of Ohio to file a return late, if they get an extension, this is kind of interesting, but we need to be aware of it. We cannot inquire as to why they didn't file. So it's going to be necessary for our tax commissioner to, before they send out letters or anything inquiring why taxes weren't filed, to check it out, because we'll get notice of it. We should get notice of it, but she's got to be here. She's got to be careful as to whether they inquire as to why someone didn't file their return, because if they inquire of it, we've got a problem. So that's new. This is new, and this is.
Can I
Yeah.
interject just a question around who our tax commissioner is? My understanding is that we were operating under Rita. So is it Rita that has to be careful about this, or is it one of our employees?
So our tax commissioner is a liaison between us and Rita.
Mm-hmm.
That would be Paula.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be appointing someone else to do that when she leaves.
Mm-hmm.
But she really does not have direct contact with people
Oh,
who get taxed. It's
okay.
all through Rita.
Okay, well, then probably that's not going to be as big an issue with us. This is a change. I don't know how it's going to work. We're limited to a fine of $25 for someone that doesn't file their return. $25. Used to be $25 per month, up to $150, but now it's $25. And if they subsequently file their return, we're limited to, we have to actually give the money back. We have to give the $25 back. So obviously it's going to create some problems with enforcement. Now we have a criminal code, which I have to really look into as to how those two intersect. Because historically, we've also enforced it in our mayor's court, but I really need to see now how that is going to intersect.
So what that looks like is if someone doesn't file their taxes, Rita can go after them for $25, but if they do file them, then they have to refund the $25. If someone just doesn't file, then what we're looking at is whether we would go after them and what that looks like with Mayor's Court.
Right, right. Historically, it's never been an issue, but I want to look at it again. The other thing is, there's a Ohio ORC code sections plural, that allow for how you file and rules regarding filing. A citizen can choose to go under that provision of the ORC. It's just different. And again, typically, I think that will relate more to businesses than individuals. The money still comes to us, but it's whether they file based on the ORC or on RETA on this code, and they could choose to go under either. So that's pretty much the highlights.
Any questions for Mr. Butler?
So can I make a clarification here
Yeah.
on the collection of taxes? There was a period of time when we used the Attorney General to collect.
Correct.
However, RETA does that for us. So if you recall, usually in the June, July, August period, they will send out subpoenas on behalf of the Village of Gulf Manor to people who haven't paid taxes. This year, we did not have an on-site subpoena round, because what they will do is bring down 6 adjusters, set them up in the hall, and ask people to bring their shoe boxes with their stuff in on site, and then correct that process right there. So there is no enforcement on our end on collection of taxes, and they've been very successful. In fact, that's part of the reason that our personal income tax numbers have been so high, because they do so well at collecting, where the Attorney General did not. So,
Well,
I think it's a,
we did have a contract also for collection of unpaid fines and costs at Mayor's Court. I wasn't aware that you were using the AG's office for taxes as well.
yeah, at one time, but not anymore. Rita does it all.
Rita does it all.
So,
So I need a motion to read by title only.
I have a question. You have a question?
Okay.
Section 5, it says that all taxpayers are required to file a return, whether taxes due or not. But in section 1, it says essentially that people under 18, their income is exempt. It's not that they're not taxpayers, it's that their income is exempt. Does this mean that people under 18 still need to file a return even though they'll end up paying no tax, or are they not considered a taxpayer because their income is exempt?
That's a good question. I think probably they are not a taxpayer because their income is exempt. I mean, but the section referring to is you have to file whether there's taxes or not is, of course, for federal taxes, that's always the case.
Sure.
When the exemptions. Now they've made it required for municipalities. But if you're not required, under 18 isn't required, well, under certain circumstances there are.
That's the thing, they're exempt.
Yeah.
It's exempt income, so it's
Right.
like this weird.
Right. I think they do not have to file the for municipal purposes for us.
Good to know, so I'm fine.
So I was interpreting that the other way, that though they do not have taxable income because it's exempt, they still have to file because anyone, even if they don't have taxable income, has to.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So
I'll let me take a look at that.
Yeah, because
I
otherwise
mean,
they could get.
I'm not
fined.
sure there's going to be an answer until some
It's rolled
18-year-old
out.
doesn't file, right? And some community says, hey, you need to file.
So
But
it
I
was-
will look at it.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Fisher, I'm sorry, I thought you said you had a question as
I
well.
didn't have a question, I was saying discussion goes after we have a motion.
Okay, my bad. Is there a motion to pass,
Read by title only.
read by
Start
title
that.
only?
Motion to read by title only.
Is there a second?
Ordinance number 2023-15, an ordinance amending Chapter 152.1 income tax to comply with mandates required by the Ohio General Assembly. And then I need a motion,
I need a motion to suspend the rules, also calling for 3 readings.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And then a motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt 2023-15.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? Any additional questions?
Need a second.
And roll call, please.
This is we are asking this to be passed as an emergency so we can comply with the filing requirements by the state. So
Ms. Cheney,
Yes.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Mr. Marks,
Yes.
Mr. Michelson,
Yes.
Ms. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Van Horn.
Yes.
the next is ordinance number 2023-16. It's our annual appropriations ordinance. Essentially, you passed a budget earlier in the year. This adopts the budget as appropriations, which is basically permission to spend the money pursuant to the budget. It's passed every year, has to be passed before the first meeting in January, but is passed for next year.
Motion to read ordinance 2023-16 on title only.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Ordinance number 2023-16, an ordinance to make appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the Village of Gulf Manor during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2024. I need a motion to suspend the rules, calling for 3 readings.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings?
Motion to suspend rules for 2023-16.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And motion passed.
Motion to pass.
Second.
Any questions for the solicitor about this legislation? Roll call, please.
Ms. Cheney,
Yes.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Mr. Marks,
Yes.
Mr. Michelson,
Yes.
Ms. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Van Horn.
Yes.
Thank you. That is all I have. Yes. I'm sure it's more than enough.
All right, Executive Committee did not meet this evening. Mr. Van Horn, do you have any other announcements other than at our previous meeting that my understanding?
Probably the next council meeting.
Okay. All right.
That was still business in executive. So.
Any other questions? All right. I see that Planning Commission, next meeting is scheduled, Mr. Marks, for Monday, February 1st, pending any business, 6:30 PM. Anything else to report?
No, there was a meeting tentatively planned for December 3rd, but there's no business. So
The business.
it'll be whoever's on the.
So as a side note to the planning commission, since Mr. Marks is leaving, council needs to appoint 1 person to the planning commission. In addition, I think there's 1 or 2 people who also need to be reaffirmed.
Okay.
Does that person have to be a council member to replace Lou, or does
It has to be a council member to
One
replace
council
Mr.
member.
Marks. Council gets 1 member on the commission.
All right. And so we can add this to our agenda at the first or second meeting in January, as those positions will need to be solidified before the February 5th scheduled meeting, correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Sure.
Any objection on waiting until those meetings? Do so. Okay. Community engagement meets tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Ms. Brewer, do you have anything to report?
The agenda is posted on the website. We are planning on discussing neighborhood communications via the various channels that we have available to us, perhaps some restructuring of those, and then also soliciting volunteers for a subcommittee to focus on the Ridge Acres area. So lots more discussion to come.
Very good. And I guess it won't matter at future meetings, but I was going to say you're welcome to take a seat at the table when you're giving your report for it to be better on record. I apologize for not doing that. Any questions for Ms. Brewer? Finance Committee, Mr. Fisher.
Education.
There's no report.
Sorry.
Finance Committee met tonight and we basically went over everything that Eric said earlier. One point everyone that is
His work in making sure that our next meeting is December 11th, 7 PM in the main, in the municipal hall. At 7 PM, we will be inaugurating our re-elected or newly elected officials, and there'll be a reception following those proceedings. Then on January 9th will be our first executive committee meeting at 5 PM. All this is on our website. And at 7 PM will be our executive committee, our
That's
full
fabulous.
committee meeting. That was,
Should be council at 7 p.m.
sorry,
Yeah.
You said
Yes.
January 9th. You said January 9th?
Yeah,
that's as it's.
January 8th is.
January 8th, I'm sorry, I took my glasses off, January 8th. And we'll be making sure that we get, as a matter of business and community engagement, tomorrow, our next community engagement meeting set for, get that publicized. And if there is no other business, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Wow.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, for your service.
We're clear.